It must have been that unknowability that Napoleon was so drawn to because he couldn't ever properly get hold of her. Do you know what I mean? She never truly possessed by him because she had this unknowable, mercurial, ephemeral type energy.
What is your name?
Napoleon.
Has the course of my life just changed?
Napoleon.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me. Mr. Scott, I would like to start by asking you, everyone has always talked about Napoleon by his military career and by his battles, and you chose to talk about him through his relationships, which I think it's amazing. What did you discover about him, and what do they say about him?
I think Napoleon was a Corsican. And again, I footnote this by saying, of course, there are very sophisticated Corsicans, but the Corsicans are known as tough guys, right? And in one part of the film, they call him a Corsican thug. That means he comes from a lesser family without much money, so you can't even call them middle class. He learned to speak French in 2 months when he went to the military school. He had no social graces whatsoever because he was a bit of a, I'm not saying he's a thug. Yeah, I think he was a bit of a thug, actually. So he had, but no social graces, very direct. Josephine, by definition of her survival and her presence, had devised and he developed her own social graces, and he admired that. She was kind of talented in that idea that if you associate her and may describe her partly as a courtesan, then courtesans normally have great social graces. So it was a good combination, important for him. So it's beyond the bedroom. The social graces is something else.
Congratulations on this film. You're amazing on it. You're honestly my favorite part of it. And I think the reason is because this character keeps us as audience members trying to figure her out and trying to understand her real intentions. And I wanted to ask you if you think that you fully came to understand where she comes from and how she felt about Napoleon.
Yeah, I think I feel the same as you. I don't think I've figured her out myself. And I think part of the reason for that is in my research, when I tried to read every book and account and everything I could possibly find on her, when you don't have footage and you don't have video of someone and you don't have first-hand accounts of people you can meet that knew her, every single version was so different. She was a really sweet, pure, sort of almost holy lady in her Lady in Waiting's book who really didn't like Napoleon, so portrayed her in a really angelic light. And then in another account, she was so promiscuous and manipulative. And it was just, every single one was so different that it made me realize that this is somebody that presented a lot of different personalities and therefore was essentially unknowable. And that led me to believe that it must have been that unknowability that Napoleon was so drawn to because he couldn't ever properly get hold of her. Do you know what I mean? She never truly possessed by him because she had this unknowable, mercurial, ephemeral type energy. And that was just, it was hard to play because it's always hard to play something that isn't clear and distinct, or someone that's the same in every scene because they have this essential center of personality or psyche that's the same. So that was challenging, and therefore I don't think I wouldn't ever have worked her out truly. But I do have a lot of respect for her, which is I feel a lot of love towards her.
Well, you did an amazing job. Just hearing you say that you didn't fully understand her, but then you did this. You're such a great actress, and I'm curious: is there something you wish you would have asked if she was still around?
I guess I would have asked her really truly for what it was like to be a woman in those times, because from everything I understood and from learning about her life, I can't really imagine how intense it would have been and how much you had to navigate the system as a woman and play the system and try and manipulate the system as well as survive within all of it. She ultimately felt like the word I would use for her is a true survivor, because there were so many times that she could easily have not, and it would have been over in a second. And she managed to avert it, for so long. So I feel like the other words I would use for her is kind of, I just admired her in immense dignity, despite the extremity of the circumstance she was in, and also strange. I found her a peculiar kind of energy, because I figured that they both were, and so they were drawn to each other because they recognised that sort of strangeness in each other.
You think you're great. You are just a tiny little brute that is nothing without me.
Watching the film, it almost felt like my history, the history books I read in high school and came to life, and also paintings. I was wondering if you got inspired by any other like forms of art from Napoleon, maybe paintings or something like that.
The paintings are the photographs of the period. Yeah. Those paintings are so accurate, they're time warps. So I was in the museum in Paris 2 days ago, the military museum, incredible. If you go to Paris, you got to go to the military museum. Yeah. Huge, beautiful building. And in there, every painting you could sit in front of for 2 hours. And you could look at not just the subject, but everything around him. Everything is painted. It's a photograph of the period. Tells you everything.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. I think that's all the time we have left. But thank you for the film as well.
Thank you.
I'm the first to admit when I make a mistake. I simply never do.